This year, the first European Grand Prix is also the first San Marino Grand Prix. And since the Republic has no racetrack of its own, it's being held on the magnificent 3.1-mile circuit at nearby Imola. And the European season's getting into top gear straight away in front of a truly fanatical crowd. For Imola's near Maranello, the home of Ferrari, and Milan, the home of Alfa Romeo, and there are 5 Italian drivers in the race. After Long Beach, Brazil and the Argentine, Carlos Reutemann leads the World Championship from his Williams teammate, the reigning world champion Alan Jones, with Nelson Piquet in 3rd place, 9 points ahead of Patrese and Prost. But here, at a wet and overcast Imola, after more political squabbling and contention over car specifications, to the delight of the partisan crowd, their idol, the French-Canadian Gilles Villeneuve, is right back on top in pole position in the revised 1.5-litre turbo Ferrari. Second fastest, it's the World Championship leader Carlos Reutemann in his Williams. Then, 3rd and 4th fastest, the turbo Renaults of René Arnoux and Alain Prost. Nelson Piquet's 5th ahead of Didier Pironi in the 2nd turbo Ferrari. John Watson's a superb 7th in the new Marlboro MP4, but Alan Jones is only 8th. Both Brian Henton and Derek Warwick in the new Turbo Tolmans failed to qualify. So did Derek Daly, and the Lotus team have withdrawn after the disqualification of their new car. So a quick check on the grid, and it shows Villeneuve in pole position alongside Carlos Reutemann, the 2 turbo Renaults, Arnoux and Prost. 5th and 6th, Piquet and Pironi. And there, 60 laps, 188 miles, and the lap record's held by Alan Jones, 1 minute 36.1. The lights go green and it's go. And it's a beautiful start, and Reutemann's through in the lead, but no, Villeneuve takes him, and Pironi's coming up fast on the outside as they go up towards the Tarambello and then onto the Rettifilo and the Tosa, and it's Villeneuve, and then the 2nd Ferrari of Didier Pironi, and behind them it's Reutemann and Alan Jones, and that is Guerra, Angel Guerra, the Argentine driver, out of the race already in a nasty looking crash, and up towards the Piratella go the leaders, and it's the 2 Ferraris, and the Italian crowd will go wild when this lap is completed, because Villeneuve is leading. There's Nelson Piquet about halfway down the field, number 5 in the Brabham, 27 Gilles Villeneuve, and take no notice incidentally of the numbers in the top right hand corner of your screen, their camera position numbers, but it's Villeneuve leading, Pironi in 2nd place, then Reutemann, then Jones, then Patrese ahead of Arnoux, and it's one of the Alfa Romeos in 7th position, and it looks like Mario Andretti, and it is. And from there up to the Varietta Alta, and then down 3rd gear, 4th, 5th, and a very quick part of the circuit, the Ferraris lead.
That was very interesting to see at the start there. There was a clear demonstration of the power of these Ferraris, because with their turbocharged engines, because Reutemann got away from the 9 really best, and the 2 Ferraris, it's a long straight up to the first corner, and Pironi had come right through and they'd gone well clear. So that was a big demonstration, and power definitely suits this track here. Particularly, of course, it will be more of a help should it dry out.
End of the lap, and it's Ferrari, Williams, Arrows cars in the first 5 position. Villeneuve, there he is, number 27, Pironi behind him, and there is Patrese, just in the background. Riccardo Patrese in the orange Arrows has gone through into 4th position ahead of world champion Alan Jones, and there is the Arrows. Behind him, the Williams of Alan Jones, then René Arnoux in the Turbo Renault. But just look at the pace of these Ferraris. The question is, though, will they last the pace? A lot of people accuse them of turning up the turbo pressure in practice to get maximum power for a good lap speed in practice ahead of the Italian crowd, and will they last? Angel Guerra trapped in the car. Now that looks a very nasty one indeed. It looks as though his foot's trapped, his left foot is trapped. ambulance goes Villeneuve, Pironi in second place, Reutemann third, and Patrese fourth.
Well, of course, look, there's Alan Jones's car. Look at the front wing on his car. He's probably had it coming together, because it was definitely all right a couple of laps ago. I would suspect in the early sortings out he's hit somebody, and I doubt whether he'll be able to carry on at full speed at any rate like that for very long. Presents him with an interesting problem. There is Jones in the pits now. Is he going to change onto dry tyres? Because he'd be stupid to have to stop twice. He can do both jobs at once, but of course the track is drying out, but is it yet dry enough to run properly on dry tyres?
Well, that's Eliseo Salazar, the Chilean driver, in the march. He's qualified well for the race, and his teammate Derek Daly did not. Alain Prost, the French driver in the Renault, out of the race, and now it looks as though the Ferraris are establishing dominance, a very interesting technical point, but the Brabhams with their hydro-pneumatic suspension have been copied by Arrows, by Tyrrell, by Fittipaldi, and they're holding the pace well. It's the last race of the Renault 20 before they bring out the new 30 for Zolder, and the Talbot Matras aren't doing very well. There's the position after 3 laps. Villeneuve and Pironi, Ferrari, then the Williams of Reutemann, Patrese in 4th position, and there's the end of another lap as Gilles Villeneuve, the 29-year-old French-Canadian, goes through in now quite a commanding lead.
Turning up their boost pressure for practice, Murray. I think some of the drivers are taking attitude. I gather that Piquet said that he'd like to try and get behind the Ferraris and then let them break down, wait for them to break down. Of course, in wet conditions, there's far less strain on the car. I'm quite sure they wouldn't have done anything as stupid enough. The Ferrari team, they're great people for finishing. They won't have turned up the turbo pressure to a dangerous level.
Carlos Reutemann and third position. So now it's two Italian cars in the lead and an Italian driver in third position. A wonderful situation for this partisan Italian crowd as Patrese goes ahead of Carlos Reutemann. And Reutemann, by the way, has finished 13 races in points order. He's scored points. Watson, who was in sixth position. That's the new Marlboro MP4 car. He's had a new nose cone put on the front of it, and it's a question of whether he has changed tyres as well, as the two dominant 1.5 litre 500 horsepower plus Ferraris V6s go through. Villeneuve still absolutely on the ragged edge, because this car may go very quickly, but it certainly does not handle very well. As does Arnoux Renault. Arnoux off, he was in sixth position, and that's Hector Ribac in seventh position and closing up on him. And we've just had news from the far side of the course that Nelson Piquet has gone up to fifth position. So now the Brabhams are fifth and sixth. And there is Hector Ribac with René Arnoux, and the race is well and truly on, and Ribac going through and taking René Arnoux. So the Mexican driver is doing extremely well in this race in the Brabham.
Yes, Hector Ribac is certainly driving with increasing confidence. Here we see a replay of his overtaking manoeuvre on the Renault. He dives inside very neatly, takes the turbo car a little bit by surprise, and it's a very good effort, particularly in these difficult slippery conditions.
Pironi leads, Patrese second, Piquet in third position, Reutemann in fourth place, Ribac is fifth, and René Arnoux is sixth, and there is Villeneuve going into the pits, the race leader, Gilles Villeneuve in the Ferrari into the pits, and Pironi, his teammate, there he goes, takes the lead at the San Marino Grand Prix, and absolute pandemonium in the pits.
Interesting decision, Murray, by Villeneuve, because if it is just tyres he's gone in for, he is the first person to change onto dry tyres who hasn't been forced to do so by needing to stop anyway for other reasons. And it'd be interesting to see if the leader should have gone in that early to put dry tyres on in these marginal conditions.
It's hardly a lightning fast pit stop, and that's Kiki Rosberg in the Fittipaldi on Avon tyres, incidentally. Another tyre manufacturer has joined the Formula One tyre war, and Villeneuve blasts out, and that, according to my stopwatch, was a 32-second pit stop, and that's a long time, much longer than it should have been. Villeneuve out on slicks, and the position on lap 16, then Ferrari leads with Pironi, then Patrese, Piquet in third position ahead of Reutemann, Hector Ribac in the second Brabham, and René Arnoux in the Turbo Renault in sixth position. And that's Villeneuve in the Scarlet Ferrari. And there is Jean-Pierre Jabouille, the ex-Renault driver, in his first race in the Talbot, who broke his leg so very badly in the Canadian Grand Prix, and it looks as though his race isn't lasting very long. Look at the battle for seventh position between Mario Andretti there in the Alfa Romeo, followed by Giacomelli, then the Italian Andrea De Cesaris in the McLaren car, and Eddie Cheever in 10th place in the Tyrrell. And that's a great scrap. Look at the way they're going. Pironi, who won in Belgium last year, who led at Monaco, and he was driving in a Ligier then, who also led in Spain, but only won one race when he could well have won 3, and it looks as though he's now on his way to his second Grand Prix win. Didier Pironi then, there he goes, this very quiet Frenchman who shattered the Formula One world at the end of last season by calmly announcing that he had in fact signed for Ferrari very early on in the season and had kept it completely secret. And it was a very outraged Guy Ligier, his team boss, when he heard the news. And Pironi looks as though he's done the right thing. See the flash of the turbocharger there as he goes down a gear for the Varietta Alta. And there's Patrese. Patrese through. And Piquet in third position, and Piquet is gaining. He's getting a very close thing now for first. And Villeneuve in that batch is down in the pits again as Eddie Cheever thunders through in the Tyrrell, chasing Giacomelli and Andretti.
Yes, I think it started raining, Murray, which is probably why Villeneuve's gone back in the pits, which is very unfortunate for him. That's pretty unlucky because he changed onto dry tyres, and within a lap it had started raining again. At the same time, it makes one wonder whether he took the trouble to look at the sky and have a check whether it was going to rain, because that is something that you must do in a situation like this, and one would hope that it can't have been that difficult to have read the weather, I wouldn't have thought.
Chasing De Cesaris, incidentally, and that's Alan Jones back in the pits. He started on wets, he changed to dries, he realised he made a mistake, he's going on to wets, and there's Mark Sura in the Ensign, who started on dry tyres and changing now to tyres that are right for the wet condition.
Yes, it's raining quite steadily now. The track's really getting wet, so obviously those unfortunate people who were soldiering around on dry tyres are really put right out of the race. Piquet, who's come steadily through the field, is now having a go at Riccardo Patrese, who incidentally is not about to make it easy for him in front of his local crowd, as he's not done there. He's hard on the brakes there. You saw the car twitching a little bit as Patrese fends off Piquet. Piquet's going to really have to work to get past him. Patrese is never easy, and as I say, at home he's going to be pretty tough.
27-year-old Riccardo Patrese then challenging with Piquet right behind it, but here is the leader, Didier Pironi in the Ferrari. Now he's got a good lead, he's just got to keep the car going, because in second place behind him it's Piquet. Nelson Piquet has got ahead of Riccardo Patrese, out of picture. Italian producer missed it and he's gone through into second place. So Nelson Piquet has only got one man ahead of him, and on the first lap he was down in about 10th position. It's a superb barnstorming drive by Nelson Piquet as he comes through to complete another lap in second position, with Patrese in the orange arrows behind him in third place.
Oh dear, well that's a strange place to park. I suspect, that's Salazar, I suspect that he's spun to get in that position, because I don't think anybody would park like that, not even a South American. And the marshal there doesn't know whether to wave his flag or push. He's having a bit of a struggle, but I expect they'll get him pushed and then he'll drop the clutch and say, sorry, my foot slipped off the clutch, and so I did have a push start, but obviously he's got to get the car started and get it out of the way there. Very dangerous for the others.
Frenzied Marshall leaves the course, and I don't blame him either, as Salazar gets away, and he's done very well to qualify. And there is Giacomelli and De Cesaris barging his way past his countryman, fellow Italian.
Which unfortunately is the only way to get past Giacomelli. We've got two Italians racing like fiends in front of their own crowd. De Cesaris has been trying to get by Giacomelli for quite a while, and Giacomelli is being considerably wider even than Patrese. So it's a good effort by De Cesaris to do that.
It's a very good effort, because De Cesaris is driving the old McLaren M29. He was denied the new Marlboro MP4 and not very happy about it, so he's doing very well indeed. And Pironi there has lapped Patrick Tambay, and that is Piquet in second place. There is only now a 6-second gap between Nelson Piquet as Sura and Alan Jones goes through, and they're going to be caught and lapped by Pironi. But Patrick Tambay, who drove so superbly in the Theodore at Long Beach, is holding Pironi magnificently. And Piquet, see how hard he is trying. He's done the fastest lap in the race so far, 1 minute 48.8, compared with the lap record of 1 minute 36 seconds.
Dear, oh dear. Well, that is Giacomelli going off on the left. He had a coming together with the Tyrrell. I think that looked like Chiva. Yes, that's Eddie Chiva. And we weren't able to, once again, the Italian director only managed to catch the back end of it. He's missed most things altogether. But I have to say, we couldn't see what happened, but Giacomelli has been driving pretty aggressively. I would have said excessively aggressively for most of the race. So I would think that he at least contributed to that, and there is certainly a cheesed off Chiva.
We are going to hear a lot more of that young man, because Eddie Chiva is only 23 years old and he's a possible world champion. He's not in the fastest car in the race, but he's driven superbly and obviously very, very unhappy. Look at that, the third car is Piquet, the one in the front is Pironi, sandwiched between them and 2 laps behind them in fact is Patrick Tambay. So this is the end of lap 35 with Didier Pironi in the turbocharged 1.5 litre Ferrari, which is proving to be much more reliable than anybody expected, probably partly due to the cooler weather conditions, which suit the turbo better than the heat we had in practice. And Tambay's moving over, and Piquet's going to go through, and now Piquet has got nothing in front of him except Didier Pironi, and that Frenchman's going to take a lot of catching and passing.
Yes, particularly, Murray, because as we explained earlier, the Ferrari has a considerable power advantage over the Ford-powered cars, and what happens, of course, is that Pironi can use that advantage by going as slowly as he likes around the corners, making sure he makes no mistake. All he has to do is boot it, get it out of the corners well, and he will accelerate away, and he'll be practically impossible to pass. He'll be really difficult for Piquet to pass, and he'll really have to fight for it. Piquet's driven a good aggressive race. His car's working absolutely beautifully. It's handling very, very easily. That's visible on the screen, and he's handled the crisis moments well, but he's going to have to work very hard to get past Pironi now, and he's going to have to use a fair bit of patience, I would think.
Pironi, a lot of experience, because he won the 24-hour race at Le Mans in 1978. This is his 48th Grand Prix, and Salazar's finished his race. And look at the way Tambay is holding on. He may have been lapped twice, but he's certainly holding Piquet and Pironi superbly.
Yes, well, there's a reason for that, Murray, and that's because Tambay was one of the people who ran quite a lot of the race on dry tyres, as for instance did Villeneuve, who's charging through the field at the moment. And They, of course, have got fresh, wet tyres on, and, of course, they'll be much fresher than the other people because, of course, they didn't have the wear when the track was fairly dry. And that was Tombe taking a shortcut across the grass there, which he probably didn't intend. And Patrese got past him, which will be a big worry for Piquet, because Pironi has now slowed down a bit, and Piquet is being held up by Pironi. But meanwhile, if Patrese gets on his tail, he's then got to watch both his front and his rear. And while you're trying to drive aggressively and get past somebody, to have to watch your rear as well is a big demand. It makes life very difficult indeed. So Piquet's got a double problem. He's going to be in a bit of more of a hurry now to get past Pironi than he would otherwise have been.
Villeneuve is the fastest man in the race. We've just seen it, but look at Piquet challenging Pironi. Gilles Villeneuve has really got the Ferrari wound up, just as Piquet has got the Brabham wound up, and that was Patrese right behind. It's a tremendously close thing, and Piquet challenging the Aqua Minerale, holding its line. Pironi is holding his line, as he has every right to do. But now, as I have said many times before, this man, the leader, is seeing the second man behind him big in his mirrors. He's being pressured every inch of the way by the very experienced and very determined Brazilian. Whose race is it going to be?
This is a superb piece of driving by both drivers. Piquet has finally managed to get up alongside Pironi. Pironi's held his line. He's given Piquet no more room than he absolutely has to, and he's stuck with it, and he's held the line for the corner. Meanwhile, Piquet has been as aggressive as he possibly could be. He can't afford to take any risks because he wants to win this race, not put himself out of it. And it was a really excellent piece of driving by both. Great stuff.
The first three absolutely together as they come through to complete the 46th lap out of 60. It's Pironi, Piquet, and then Riccardo Patrese as close as that. But I say again, Villeneuve with confirmation that those are the positions, with Reutemann still fourth. We're back in fifth position in the Brabham, and De Cesaris in the McLaren in sixth place. Villeneuve is still the fastest man on the course.
Yes, I do get the feeling that Pironi's trouble, I may be wrong, but I get the feeling that he's running quite slowly now because his tyres are wearing out. You know, he's driven a hard race on them, and he's on those fairly soft, wet tyres, and I think you'll find that Piquet, with the very good chassis that the Brabham is, has probably not put quite such a strain on the tyres, and his are probably in better shape.
Down to the Aqua Minerale again, the chicane that was new last year at Imola, and very unpopular too with the drivers, but it's been widened out a bit to improve the exit, and Pironi and Piquet make every use of the full width of the circuit there. And look at Piquet, he's got the nose of the car tucked right under the gearbox as they come up to the Varietta Alta of Pironi's Ferrari, and he's going to try and go through, and this time it looks as though he's going to do it, and indeed he does. We have a new race leader, the third, and it's Piquet ahead of Didier Pironi, and right behind Pironi and closing up now, the orange arrows of Riccardo Patrese. A terrific San Marino Grand Prix. And so it looks as though Riccardo Patrese's arrows is performing a lot better than the Ferrari 2, because now Patrese's going through. Pironi either moves through or was hoodwinked by Patrese, because Patrese nipped through on the inside there and has taken second position, and Pironi's dropping back all the time. Is the Ferrari in trouble?
Well, Pironi was definitely caught napping there. He was. Here we are. We'll see it again now. You watch Patrese's lulled him into a sense of false security for a few laps by pretending not to try there, and then he just nipped out and dived through very neatly. I have to say that Patrese's driven a really excellent race here. He's been aggressive and driving very, very well indeed, and that was a fine passing manoeuvre with a difficult problem with that Ferrari in front of him.
Nelson Piquet leads. Behind him, incidentally, an interesting entry. First time Grand Prix driver Slim Borgud, the Swedish driver, who plays drums for ABBA and is sponsored by them in this race, and that has to be some sort of a record too. Nelson Piquet starting lap 53 out of 60, and he's now really got a lead that he can be very, very happy about. Look back and you'll see the gap before the second man, Patrese, goes through. That's Tombe behind him, who has been lapped, and the gap between Patrese and the third place man, and there's the battle for third. Reutemann has now caught right up to Pironi, so just as Pironi was passed first of all by Piquet and then by Patrese, it looks as though Carlos Reutemann is going to catch him and take him, and if he does, it's going to be very significant, because do not forget that Reutemann is leading the World Championship. Piquet has been closing up on him by winning the Argentine Grand Prix. Carlos Reutemann is on his way at the moment to his 14th successive Grand Prix finish in the points, and if he does finish there, it will be an incredible performance. Pironi, Ferrari. Reutemann in the Saudia Leyland Williams, and the Argentine comes right up alongside and then has to drop back. It's down to the Acqua Minerale again. Now they accelerate away from here up into third gear as they come out of the corner, then into fourth, and then up the hill, and they come back into second gear for the Varietta Alta, and this is where Reutemann will challenge again. He's right up alongside, drops back. So Pironi is still third. In front of them, still Nelson Piquet, Riccardo Patrese. Fifth, Hector Ribac. Sixth, Andrea De Cesaris. Into the Rivazza, the double left-hander, second gear, up into third, up into fourth gear. And Reutemann's going through here. Yes, he has. Third position, Carlos Reutemann, and that's the difference between 3 points and 2 points. Yeah, 4 points and 3 points, sorry.
You can see Reutemann getting terrific grip out of the previous corner. He got much more bite than Pironi's getting. I really think that Pironi must be in a bit of tyre trouble. I think they're just worn out. There's been a fair bit of dry track to run on this. That's Villeneuve going slowly. I wonder what's happening with him suddenly. 1 lap to go, or just over a lap to go, and he's limping.
And Hector Ribac there is now ahead of Pironi. The Ferrari is flagging after having led, been second, been third, and now he's down to fifth as Ribac moves up and Nelson Piquet with Rebac in 4th position. His team leader, Nelson Piquet there, number 5, is on his last lap on his way to his 5th Grand Prix victory in 2 years of Grand Prix driving. A superb achievement. There's the Brazilian. 9 points for a win in the Argentine Grand Prix, where he was accused by a lot of people of having an unfair suspension system. Well, he certainly hasn't got that in this race, because the car is absolutely legal. Now, there is Patrese second, behind him Tombe, who is 10th and about to be passed by John Watson. John Watson really having a go in the last 80, and Reutemann in 3rd position is behind Watson, who is challenging Tombe. Don't forget that Tombe and Watson goes through into 10th position, but he's 2 laps behind Riccardo Patrese, and that means that Carlos Reutemann is not going to be able to get that 2nd position. What a terrific finish.
That was all a bit crowded, wasn't it?
There is Nelson Piquet into the last corner of the San Marino Grand Prix, looking for and welcoming the checkered flag, because that is his 5th Grand Prix victory. Over the line he goes in the Brabham. So Nelson has driven a beautifully judged race. There is Riccardo Patrese behind him in 2nd place, John Watson 10th, Tombe 11th, Reutemann in 3rd position, and Slim Borgood, I should think, in 11th place. As Rebac comes across the line to finish in 4th place, ahead of Didier Pironi in 5th place. There is the confirmation. Andrea De Cesaris, a very fine 6th position. And that, of course, does make some differences to the World Championship situation. Reutemann leads, but Nelson Piquet goes up into 2nd place. Jones down to 3rd. Riccardo Patrese is still just about in the picture. And Alain Prost in 5th position scored no points in that very, very exciting San Marino Grand Prix. And let's hope that there are going to be others if they turn out to be as good as this one has been. Well, the message is that Ferrari is back, and very welcome too. And round 5 of the World Championship is the Belgian Grand Prix on May the 17th.
tutti voi che vi preghiamo